Well, hello, my wonderful drama students. Today we move into new notes. How exciting! Something new instead of just kind of continuing to try harder and more challenging versions of things that we have already done. So, today we are going to be going through the first chapter of Unit 6. And Unit 6 is all about other forms of theater. So, mostly we've been talking about straight plays. Straight just refers to the fact that there is no music. Well, there might be music, but it's not a musical. There's not usually singing in it. Whereas we are going to talk about musical theater, television shows, movies, slam poetry, all of these different sorts of puppet shows, all these different sorts of theater that exist. And we are going to start with musical theater. Now, I know that we are not strangers to musical theater. We've done a lot with musical theater, but that's where this starts. And I want to make sure that we hit every single item because this is, beginning drama class, and I want to make sure that none of it has passed you by. So, hopefully, you have the notes on musical theater assignment out and you are ready to take them. So, first, we start with some terms to know, including choreographer, chorus, principal, production number, and as I've already said, straight play. A straight play, as I've already said, just means a non-musical play. That doesn't mean that there's no music in it. It just means that it is not a musical in the sense that you don't have a lot of big production numbers where there's a lot of singing and dancing. And production number, why not? Let's just go backwards, is the second term. A production number is a usually big, elaborate song and dance sequence that most of the cast takes part in. This wouldn't be kind of the solo ballad where I'm telling my story alone on stage. This is going to more be where you've got the whole group out there and they're all singing, "No one mourns the wicked," or insert favorite. You guys love Newsies. That's my cigar, you'll steal another. I'll be here all day. You're welcome for this video. Okay, next is principal. Principal is not just the person who leads a school. That just means the major actor in a show. So in Wicked, it would be Elphaba and Glinda. In Newsies, it would be Jack and Crutchy, I guess. I haven't seen Newsies in a while. I know we watched it together, but for some reason it's passing me by right now. Next term is the chorus. The chorus is going to be usually non-named parts, kind of the cast of thousands who are there to fill out. Usually they play a lot of different parts. Not every show has a chorus. Schoolhouse Rock, for example, does not have a chorus. Your Good Man Charlie Brown does not have a chorus, but like Wicked and Newsies do. They have a bunch of unnamed characters who are just there to fill in the crowd and have extra voices for harmonies and wonderful dancers and things like that. And finally, you have choreographer. That is the person who designs everything having to do with dance throughout the show. So those are terms to know, and hopefully you probably already knew them, but I just wanted to make sure. So when we talk about musicals, we are necessarily talking about the American musical, at least at first. Obviously, other countries have their own musicals now. There is a fantastic German production of The Hunchback of Notre Dame that if you have some time and you want to check it out, I strongly recommend that you do. Hunchback is one of my favorite Disney movies, and it's wild watching people sing it in German. Obviously, there are English translations as well, but check it out. So in the early 1920s, the musical didn't exist, and it was uniquely American, invented by the greats such as, George Gershwin and Irving Berlin. These might be names that you have heard, in the back of your mind culturally, and they created some of the first major musical comedies. When they created them, they were really light and probably even could be termed as silly. The songs were just there as fun distractions, and it didn't really matter what it was about. It didn't try to do anything important, shall we say. That all changed in 1927 with the musical Showboat, which is directed by Jeremy Kern. It actually dealt with serious subject matter: racism, spousal abuse, abandonment. In addition, it made the wild change where the songs actually furthered and told the plot. So rather than just being a fun, silly distraction to watch people dance and sing, you learned about characters, you have the story told about you, and the songs became important, right? They weren't just, here's a story, here's a story, here's a story, and now we're having fun, and here's the story. It was linked together. Musicals, smash it in America. We love a musical. And since then, you've got majorly successful musicals over time, including Oklahoma, where the wind goes streaming down the plain. You've got Bye Bye Birdie, it's sad to see you go. We love you, Conrad. Oh yes, I love Bye Bye Birdie. Check it out. Dick Van Dyke has a wonderful version of Bye Bye Birdie that he is in. I strongly recommend. West Side Story, which is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, but with the Jets and the Shocks in New York City. Hair, which is wild and from the 70s, and Jesus Christ Superstar, which is by Andrew Lloyd Webber, a name that you might recognize from Phantom of the Opera, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, lots of other things. And they not only dealt with modern cultural trends, but also social issues that were current in America. So lots of changes happening throughout these musicals and over time. So in addition to kind of changing what they were about, they also vastly changed in style. There was experimentation just like in any art form. On the one hand, you have shows like West Side Story, Jesus Christ Superstar, that are retellings of stories that already exist. And you have brand new ideas like Hair and Bye Bye Birdie. You have musicals that play with what a musical can be and when is a musical and not an opera. Jesus Christ Superstar and Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat are all told entirely through song. There are no spoken scenes whatsoever. They're entirely musical. This was pushed in the other direction when you have shows like Contact and Moving Out that are just songs and dance. In Moving Out, actually, there's only one singer, and he's singing all of Billy Joel's famous pop hits, and there's just dancers beyond that. There's no dialogue ever, and there's a lot of questions about whether or not that counts as a musical. And there's a really good conversation to be had about that. Moving forward, let's talk about musical theater personnel. So beyond the regular people that are required to be in any sort of a show, I'm just going to focus on either how your job changes if you're in a musical or additional people. So I'm not going to talk about the same people that we already know. We're gonna extend this just taking for granted the fact that the things that you already know about. So there are a lot more people involved in musicals than in straight plays, just because there's a lot more going on. There are a lot more moving parts. The actors, beyond just being able to act, now need to be able to sing too. If you're that rare person that can sing, act, and dance all at the same time, that earns you the title of being a triple threat. So hopefully I've got some triple threats watching this, and you can do all three of those. That just makes you think of a joke that's made in another great musical called Spamalot, which is a musical version of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, a hilarious movie from the past that, again, I highly recommend that you watch. The musical director, so not just a regular director who takes care of the blocking and the coaching in terms of how to perform lines and songs, facial expressions, movement, not dancing, but the blocking and things like that. There's a music director whose job it is to make sure that all of the performers are on key and that they are creating the best sound possible. So they are the ones who will be primarily teaching harmonies. They're going to be teaching the music. And they are going to be making sure that the actors know how to sing the music well. There's some really cool behind the scenes videos that you can watch about actors learning their songs for the first time. My mind goes back to a video with Idina Menzel when she's learning the lyrics and music for Wicked, and she's talking with the composer, who I believe is also the music director, about how exactly to sing something, the best times to take a breath, things like that. Additionally, the music director is responsible for selecting the show's instrumentation. If you have not heard the word instrumentation, fret not. It is not that complicated of a concept. The instrumentation is the instruments chosen to play the music of a show. That's it. It's just the instruments that are used. If you think about scores, and scores are just soundtracks, they're the music, the instrumental music behind what's going on, of movies, TV shows, musicals, etc., that you have heard. It's clear that using a different instrument changes the way it feels along with the way it sounds. So if you have the same theme played by a piano, versus played by a guitar or played by a trumpet or played by a harp or played by a flute or played by a trombone. It has a very different emotional effect on us. And so instrumentation can be really important. Are you going to have electric guitars and make things sound like cool? Oh man, that's on video forever now. And or are you going to have it really, soft and pretty? Oftentimes, if you think about musicals and movies and scores and things like that, they will often have the same theme played with different instruments. I love Star Wars and we talk about it all the time, but that main couple of themes that you hear in Star Wars constantly are coming back. Excuse me. Constantly are coming back throughout the movie. Same with many other movies with different instruments because it's supposed to feel different, because it's capturing a different emotional moment of the whatever it is, the play, the movie, the musical. And so I encourage you to go through some of the things that you love and listen for the same themes over and over again in different instruments and see how differently it feels based on what instrument is being used at the time. And that is the concept of instrumentation, something that the music director is responsible for. Below the music director, you will have the conductor. And the conductor is responsible for actually in the moment, if it's being performed live, to he is responsible, she is responsible for kind of guiding the entirety of that process. So, depending on how large an orchestra is, they are the ones who are saying, okay, you go now. Okay, now you know it. I need more volume from you, less volume from there. And they are the ones who kind of control the whole show, keep everybody on track, keep everybody stopping and starting at the same moment, keeping everybody on beat. And that is their job. Sometimes the conductor and the music director are the same person. Sometimes they're not. It just kind of depends on the production and what they are doing. You have the choreographer, who is responsible for designing all the dancing in a show's performance. What is the actual word I'm looking for there? Oh, the production numbers. In a show's production numbers, obviously they have to be knowledgeable about both music and dancing in order to be effective. I was the choreographer for Schoolhouse Rock and for Charlie Brown, and I do my best. But I don't think that I would make it very far in the professional world. Choreographers are probably people who have been dancing their entire lives and can come up with really original dances, which is tough. It's hard. It's challenging to come up with a good original dance for something. And so that is a choreographer's job. And then, of course, the producer. You always need somebody to deal with the money, 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 money. Again, you're welcome for that moment that you have on video now. A good producer needs to be really good at answering one question and one question only. Will it sell? Unfortunately, the question is not, is this good? The question is not, is this worth doing? C'est la vie. They're the ones concerned about getting investors their money back. One of the most successful shows of all time you might have never heard of. It's called The Fantastics. It's an old show that has only 7 characters in it, and it's a relatively simple love story. The original investors have received nearly a 20,000% increase on their original investment, to the point that this book was created, which is a wild, wild success. Cats used to be the longest running musical. Well, I guess it still might be the longest running. I don't think it's running on Broadway any longer. And they made a movie that was not a good investment, that I do not recommend. But really the question is, how do you make money? The musical The Producers is all about kind of cheating and making money by making a purposefully bad musical that accidentally ends up being really good. I don't know that I can recommend The Producers to you, but ask your parents if you can watch The Producers, because I absolutely adore that show. Um, of course, beyond all of that, you have the technical crews that you would have in any play, plus more to help deal with all of the additional things that you need to deal with. Okay, so you've taken the notes. At this point, your job will be to create a musical of your own. You are going to create it from bottom up, and you are going to pitch it, essentially. We are going to kind of congregate all of your ideas into one doc, and then you guys will vote on which idea is the best, which one should get all of the money. And we are going to have a rationale for why we think that those things are. We're going to put on our producer hat. So as you are creating your musical, yes, I do want you to create good art that you think is meaningful and should be made, but also keep in mind that other primary question, which is, will other people want to watch this? That tends to be an important question to answer. That assignment will take us through the middle of next week. And so take your time with it. I don't want you to rush it. Some of the steps will take longer than others, and that's okay. Um, I really am excited to see what you guys come up with, and I think that you are really creative and can come up with some good stuff. So as you are coming up with your ideas, you can either adapt something or create a new thing. What you create cannot exist. So it can exist in the form of like it already exists as a movie or it already exists as a book or whatever, but it cannot exist as a musical. So you can't say, I'm going to make a musical about these newsboys who make a statement. No, you can't do that. You have to create something that doesn't already exist in musical form. It can exist as a book, it can exist as a TV show or a movie. You have to be the person who takes it from what it is and makes it into a musical and makes all of those decisions. Alternatively, you could be the one who creates something brand new. Okay, that is all I have for you guys in this video, my longest video to date. And yeah, please let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them. Other than that, I'll see you later, cool kids.